On the night of September 12, 2019, a 31-year-old woman made her way to her boyfriend's house. She had just gone live on Facebook, where she threatened to expose their secret affair. What she didn't realize was that this decision would be her last. Not long after arriving, she was shot by the very man she thought she loved. Rushed to the hospital in critical condition, she would pass away only hours later. A life cut short, leaving behind questions, heartbreak, and a legal battle that seemed to push justice just out of reach. This is the haunting story of Chiron Miller. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city known for its breweries, its stunning Lake Michigan shoreline, and a proud cultural heritage. It's vibrant, historic, and filled with energy. But like many big cities, Milwaukee also wrestles with crime, and it was here that Chiron's life would come to a tragic end. Born on July 3, 1998, in Chicago, Chiron was raised by her mother, Jacqueline Brinson. Little is publicly known about her father or much of her early childhood, but those who knew her say she was surrounded by a tight circle of family and friends. Chiron's personality stood out. She was bold, outspoken, and unapologetically herself. Friends described her as someone who told the truth, whether you liked it or not, and who cared fiercely for the people closest to her. That fiery honesty carried over to her social media. On Facebook, she spoke her mind openly, never afraid to let the world know what she was thinking. Her posts drew both support and criticism, but they painted a clear picture of a woman unafraid to be real. One of her posts read, "Can't be in a relationship when I'm broke. If they doing good and got money and help me every now and then, that's fine and all that, but I'm still broke." Chiron's words revealed her struggles, her frustrations, and the unfiltered truth she lived by. Chiron never shied away from being herself. She embraced her bold personality fully, even when others couldn't handle it. But that same fearless spirit, the one that made her so unapologetic, would also play a role in the dangerous road ahead. Still, before life began to spiral, her determination stood out. Chiron was focused on building a future, not just for herself, but for the family she loved deeply. She enrolled at ITT Technical Institute, pursuing studies in network and systems administration. For her, education wasn't only about securing a job. It was about creating stability, growth, and the chance at a better life. But Chiron was more than just a student. She was an artist. Tattooing became one of her greatest passions, a skill that allowed her creativity to shine. Known for her precision and vision, she earned respect as a tattoo artist at Nocturnal Ink and Body Canvas Incorporated. On top of her artistic career, she worked at Go Rightway Transportation Group, balancing multiple jobs with relentless resilience. No matter the challenges, Chiron pushed forward, determined to provide a solid foundation for her loved ones. Yet, despite her talents, strength, and fiery personality, there was one part of her life that always seemed fragile: love. Chiron often found herself entangled with men whose backgrounds and character raised red flags. These relationships left her with heartbreak and hard lessons, a cycle that unfortunately would play a role in the tragedy that ended her life. But even through the chaos of love gone wrong, Chiron discovered something beautiful. From those relationships came her greatest joy: her children. She was a devoted mother to 4 kids, pouring her energy, her love, and her spirit into raising them. In one of her live streams, her pride as a mother shone through. She introduced her children to the camera with a fierce sense of ownership and love. "He came out of me. Look at him. Look at her. Smile for the camera. Let them see your dimples. This is a product of me. I made this. Look how beautiful they are. I did that." For Chiron, her children weren't just her responsibility, they were her legacy, her source of strength, and the purest expression of her love. And while the fathers of her children remain unclear, one thing was undeniable. Chiron gave everything she had to give her kids the best life she could. Chiron's life wasn't perfect, but it was filled with purpose. She was working hard, raising her children, and chasing her dreams. But everything would change the moment she crossed paths with the man who would ultimately shatter it all: 29-year-old Darnell Kimball. It's unclear exactly how or when the two first met, but what is certain is that Chiron fell for him quickly. To her, Darnell seemed like the kind of man she could love. But from the outside looking in, the warning signs were already there. Darnell carried a criminal past that stretched back years. In 2009, he was convicted of armed robbery, the first of many run-ins with the law. His record grew longer with each year. Battery and disorderly conduct in 2017, an arrest for drug possession in 2018, and even more chilling, that same year, he killed someone through strangulation and suffocation. He was a man with a violent history, someone Chiron should have avoided at all costs. But instead, she stayed unaware of just how deep the lies went. Because Darnell wasn't just a troubled man. He was also already married. Without knowing it, Chiron had stepped into a relationship built on deception, taking on the role of the other woman. Despite the truth lurking beneath the surface, Chiron remained in the relationship. Whether it was love, hope, or the belief that things could change, she stayed. But what began as subtle red flags quickly spiraled into something darker, a volatile and abusive relationship. Both Chiron and Darnell had fiery, stubborn personalities. Together, those traits clashed, sparking chaos and conflict. Instead of love, Chiron found herself stuck in a cycle of arguments, betrayal, and emotional pain. In her frustration, she voiced her feelings online. In one of her social media rants, her words revealed both her anger and the toxic reality of her relationship. One of the main reasons I don't like y'all is because y'all not good for nothing. The only thing you can do is, so just give me that and keep it moving. Stop playing with me, dog. Still, she had no idea just how dangerous Darnell truly was or how quickly things were about to escalate. Because soon, the lie she had suspected became undeniable. Chiron discovered the truth. Darnell was married. The betrayal hit her like a punch. For Chiron, this was the breaking point. She wasn't the type to stay silent or keep her anger bottled up. Instead, she took to social media, airing her rage for the world to see. Anytime you can settle for being with somebody you're not even naturally attracted to, that you don't even like, that you don't even connect with just to satisfy your materialistic and shallow needs, you don't even love yourself. Her words were raw, angry, and defiant. But what she didn't know was that exposing Darnell's lies would set off a chain of events that could not be undone. Chiron never held her tongue, and when it came to Darnell, she let the world know exactly how she felt. But one of her most fiery rants would prove to be a mistake that cost her everything. During a Facebook live stream, she called Darnell out directly, angry over his lies, manipulation, and the chaos he brought into her life. Her frustration boiled over as she warned she might expose their affair publicly. "You gonna make me say your name? Bro, don't keep inboxing me. You making me mad. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. This is my page. This is my life." What Chiron didn't realize was that Darnell was watching the live stream in real time. He heard every insult, every accusation, and most importantly, the threat. And instead of backing down when she saw him tuned in, Chiron doubled down, becoming even more hostile. But on the other end of the screen, Darnell was stewing with rage. Her words lit a dangerous fire inside him, one that would soon lead to tragedy. On the late night of September 12, 2019, Chiron went to Darnell's home on 52nd and Locust in Milwaukee to collect her belongings. She was ready to walk away from the toxic relationship once and for all. But Darnell wasn't ready to let go, and the Facebook threats still burned in his mind. An explosive argument broke out between them. No one knows exactly what words were exchanged, but what happened next was chilling. In the heat of the moment, Chiron raised her hand as if to strike him. Before she could make contact, Darnell pulled a gun, aimed, and fired. The bullet tore through her arm and abdomen, an injury that would prove fatal. Chiron collapsed to the ground, bleeding, while Darnell fled the scene. His mother, who had witnessed the shooting, stood in shock at the horror unfolding before her eyes. When she finally snapped out of it, she rushed to Chiron's side and called 911, desperately trying to save her life. Chiron was transported to the hospital, but the damage was too great. Around 1 a.m. on September 13, 2019, she was pronounced dead. The news sent shockwaves through her community. Friends and loved ones were devastated, struggling to accept that her fiery, outgoing presence was gone forever. She was just an outgoing, loving person, and I'm really going to miss her. She has beautiful children that are really going to miss her, one mourner shared. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. Within days, prosecutors charged Darnell Kimball with killing the mother of 4. Investigators confirmed what witnesses already knew. His own mother had seen him pull the trigger. For Chiron's family, the heartbreak was unbearable. As her mother put it simply, "He truly shot and murdered my daughter, and now she's no longer with us." The shooting left the neighborhood shaken. Residents who lived just doors away struggled to comprehend the tragedy that had unfolded so close to home. "I was shocked that it happened right down there," one neighbor recalled. "When I found out who the victim was, it really bothered me. Her kids used to come play with my grandkids." Chiron was remembered as so much more than a victim. She was a mother of 4, a gifted tattoo artist, and a woman whose smile lit up every room she entered. She just got along with everybody. She was a peacemaker, a realist. She loved to rejoice and have fun, another friend said. As grief settled over the community, police wasted no time in pursuing justice. With Darnell's mother providing a first-hand account of what she had seen that night, investigators had a clear witness who could identify the man responsible. By September 18, 2019, prosecutors officially filed charges against Darnell Kimball. 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a felon. Given his long criminal history, the stakes were high this time. He was facing the possibility of spending decades behind bars. But what should have been a straightforward case soon unraveled. The trial became bogged down in complications tied to Darnell's past convictions. And at the center of it all was one crucial factor. The key witness was his own mother. She was torn between 2 unbearable choices: stand by her testimony and ensure justice for Chiron's children, or protect her son from a future spent in prison. It was a decision that weighed heavily on her, and in the end, her maternal instincts won out. When the trial reached court in 2020, Darnell's mother never appeared. The only eyewitness who had seen the shooting from beginning to end was absent, and without her, the prosecution's case collapsed. What had once seemed like a clear-cut path to justice crumbled before Chiron's grieving family. The defense seized on the doubt, and with no testimony to anchor the charges, the judge had little choice. In November 2020, the case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning charges could be refiled in the future. But for the time being, Darnell Kimball walked free. The dismissal of the case devastated Chiron's family. They had walked into that courtroom praying for justice, only to leave empty-handed. "The ball was dropped for justice for my daughter," her mother, Jacqueline Brinson, told reporters. "It reopened the wound all over again. He literally murdered my daughter, and he's walking free as me and you. And she's no longer with us. All we want is justice. We just want to be at peace, and we're not at peace right now." Local media quickly picked up the story, highlighting the painful reality that a mother of 4 had been killed, yet her alleged killer was walking free. For Chiron's loved ones, it was a bitter truth to swallow. Silence in the courtroom had allowed injustice to prevail. Darnell didn't escape entirely. He was convicted of illegally possessing a firearm and sentenced to probation for 2 years. But for Chiron's family, that felt like nothing compared to the crime. He was accused of the crime that had taken her life. The homicide charge had vanished, and with it, any sense of closure. For years, the case seemed frozen in time. Darnell disappeared from view, while authorities insisted the investigation was still active. But to Chiron's family, it felt as if her death had been pushed aside, as if it didn't matter. Then, nearly 4 years later, came a long-awaited breakthrough. On May 2, 2023, Milwaukee prosecutors announced the case was being reopened. Once again, Darnell Kimball was charged with first-degree reckless homicide and felony possession of a firearm. An arrest warrant was issued immediately. News outlets broke the story, reminding the public of what had been lost back in 2019. The tragedy of Chiron Sherrod Miller, just 31 years old, who was shot inside that Milwaukee apartment and died hours later from her injuries. A woman remembered as outgoing, loving, and full of life, a mother whose children would never see her again. This time, prosecutors signaled they were ready to take the case back into court. For Chiron's family, it wasn't just about reopening old wounds. It was about finally proving that her life mattered and that justice delayed would not become justice denied. Prosecutors quickly charged Darnell Kimball with killing the mother of four, based on his own mother's eyewitness account. But when she failed to appear in court, the case collapsed. Kimball was released, and for years Chiron's murder went unresolved. During that time, Kimball was convicted only of felony gun possession, a charge that earned him probation, but not accountability for the life he took. Then, in 2023, the case was reopened. Prosecutors once again filed charges of first-degree reckless homicide and felony firearm possession, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. But by then, Darnell had vanished. Authorities searched, but he was nowhere to be found, slipping through the cracks once more. As of today, he remains at large. Police are urging the public to come forward with any leads that could finally bring him to justice. For Chiron's family, the pain is relentless. They fear history will repeat itself, that justice will fail again. Her children grow up without their mother, while her family carries a wound that refuses to heal. Chiron was laid to rest in Milwaukee, her funeral supported by a GoFundMe that raised nearly $2,500, proof that her community cared, even when the system failed her. Chiron's story is not just about one tragedy. It's about what happens when toxic relationships escalate, when violent men go unchecked, and when the justice system falters. She was not just a case number, she was a mother, a daughter, and a fighter. If you know anything about the whereabouts of Darnell Kimball, contact the Milwaukee Police Department or leave an anonymous tip with Crime Stoppers. Someone out there knows something, and silence only protects the guilty. Backhand index pointing right, what do you think, will justice ever truly be served for Chiron Miller? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime stories, and hit the bell so you never miss an update.